Welcome to Intentionally FinTech, the show where we dive deep behind the purpose of your favorite and emerging fintech brands. I'm your host today, Michael Phillips, the CEO and founder of a purpose-driven branding agency called Beholst. After 7 years in the creative industry and after an unfortunate wake-up call in late January, I've made it my mission to help founders, like my guests on this podcast, to do what inspires them most. On this show, we're going to dive behind the mission and purpose, also the story behind your favorite fintech brands, the values that drive their day-to-day growth, and just how exactly clarity of purpose helps them compete in this otherwise cluttered environment. So let's dive in. My guest today is Christophe from Husk, formerly Libify. They've rebranded, they've also raised $1 million in pre-seed, and they are just super excited to share their story with you guys right now. But I didn't do him enough justice introducing him in such a short sentence. So, Christophe, you can have the microphone.
Well, thanks, Michael. Thanks for having us and having me.
My
Very
pleasure.
excited, very excited to be on this podcast. So yeah, maybe briefly about us. We are a pretty young Belgian fintech. And we, as you mentioned, we just raised a pre-seed round, 1 million. So we are really getting on the market and it's all about growth and servicing our customers and creating value for them. At the moment. And part of that is brand and branding. We also recently rebranded. So I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But maybe very briefly about Husk, what we actually do.
I was about to ask you right now.
Okay, perfect. So for European startups, because it's a regulated market and we can operate in Europe, but for European startups, we help them optimize and manage the spendings. And we do that by offering them a spending platform that integrates payment tools, such as a real credit card, so with credit built in, so they can optimize their cash flows. And we combine that with financial insight, so they know continuously and in real time how they are performing financially, what their financial health is. We bring all that in one simple platform and an easy way to grasp and understand. So you don't need to be a CFO to use the platform, but it brings you that financial clarity.
Wonderful. That
That's,
is it's an amazing platform, actually. You know,
thank you.
maybe when I was back starting with my startups back in the day, maybe 7 years ago, I would have used something like Husk or would have needed a Husk back in the day. But we talked about what you do. But as you can imagine by this title, this is intentionally fintech. We're all about intention and purpose. So I want to split the spotlight onto you and want to ask you what made you build this platform? What made you think about, okay, this is the one where everything clicks and this is what I want to do?
Yeah, so that's quite a long story and it goes way back
We
in
have
time.
time.
Perfect. But it goes way back in time. So before starting Husk, I actually was a lawyer in the banking and finance world. So what I did there is I worked for one of the largest law firms in Belgium, and we mainly advised like large corporations. Sometimes I was on the corporate side, sometimes it was on the bank side, but that was to help them again, yeah, optimize, manage the spendings and their financials. And they set up these like complex infrastructures and the bank support that. Now, that are big corporations, they have big financial teams, and these structures really help them to grow to the next phase, to improve their profits even. And that's what I did as a lawyer. I've done that for quite a few years. And then my goal was always actually to move away from being a lawyer into being an entrepreneur. So I really wanted to be an entrepreneur because as an entrepreneur, that's where you can really create value. And that's something that drives me. So then I actually to do that, because as a lawyer, you work kind of 24/7, you know. So then to start doing something on the side and then into a full-time job is very hard. So I made the decision to actually move away from it completely. And I went to the US to do an MBA in Darden Business School, which is a business school of the University of Virginia. And that's like a 2-year program, but that was really like for myself, you know, like to learn a lot. And it also gave me the space to start thinking about, okay, what's next and what can I do in entrepreneurship? And there, one of the classes I had, and that's, I think, what shaped me towards what's Husk right now. But one of the classes I had was called effectuation, and that's a way of looking at entrepreneurship. And there you have like a principle which is called bird in hand. Now that principle is about, okay, who am I? Who do I know? What do I know? And that you start analyzing because based on that, you can create value. And then if you look at myself, so it was always like, yeah, or improving large corporations from a financial perspective based on optimizing these financial structures. Now, the real interest for me is like these startups. And what you see there is they don't fit into that framework. They don't fit in these traditional frameworks that banks support and that work for large corporations, even though they need to optimize and manage their spendings, especially as a startup, because you try to grow fast, your spendings increase exponentially with that growth. And so your runway is limited at the same time, and you need to prove something and build something and get traction in a very short time with the financial constraints that you have. At the same time, startups don't necessarily have these financial teams. They don't have the size for that to really help them optimize and manage. And so if you bring all these concepts together, then slowly on, you start moving towards what is Husk actually today. And so it's a long process to come to what it is today, but that's in a few words where it comes from.
I understand. That is an intricate story, actually. I have to say, we have guests here in the past who come from like, for example, I don't think it's in the actual chronological order of the way we're going to post the episodes, but the last episode I filmed was with someone who came from the investment banking industry. He just got tired of it, threw the suit out, and said, "I'm starting my own thing." I was like, okay. And I see also that you were like in the lawyer background, and
Yeah.
then what do I want to do? And I also see myself a bit in that because what am I doing with my life? If you remember, but also for the people who don't know this, because I didn't mention this episode, I've been CEO of a creative agency. I have been a CEO of an AI startup. I got invited, and that's the worst thing you can do as a visionary, be a COO. It's horrible. Did a horrible job. And the chief creative director of a consultancy. Then after I've had that life-changing event, I literally asked myself, what am I doing with my life? And then I
Yeah.
decided to do something else, which includes this podcast for today. But I want to introduce a framework to you, if that's okay. It's the
Sure.
actually the second time I have an actual diagram, so you don't have to do any imagination work today. By the way, this is something you're going to get from me as a gift, Christophe. It's your framework, basically, and I'll walk you through it in this episode. And you're going to get a poster you can put on the wall right there behind you. You can say that I've been at Michael's podcast.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks.
Don't worry about this, because let me walk you through the framework. So are you familiar with the golden circle at all?
Actually, not. I'm not.
Okay, I wasn't expecting you to be. That's why. No, there was. We only had one guest who was accustomed to that, and still, we walked through the framework. So don't worry about it. You're in good company. That's why you were here.
Yeah.
So we have the why in the center, how in the middle, and what on the outside. And it's not coincidence that I chose my accent color to be coloring the why, because we start from the why. This is the core of the business, right? Why am I existing? And for me personally, it is to help founders like you find their purpose and show more clarity and authenticity in how they present themselves, such that they don't have to struggle with burnout or even have to die to find it out. That's my
Yeah.
why. How? Well, I've had experience with what it means to lack purpose. Second of all, I developed a new framework based on the diagrams you're going to see here. And we use these to help founders find their why and to express it further down the line and show it so that everybody believes. And finally, what? What do you do exactly? Everything should be a coherent story. So why? We already said my why, to inspire founders to be more authentic and to be more clear by usage of their purpose. How? Through this unique framework. And what? There's two things. I have an agency which does just this, and also this podcast where I invite guests and educate them on this framework. Everything makes sense, right?
It is.
This is a framework which Simon Sinek originally developed for marketing, and I adapted it a bit to branding and to fintech especially. So credit where it's due. And what happens is this. We talk from the inside out. We start with the why, move to the how, and to the what. And this inspires a customer to be more loyal to you and to do repeat business, not repeat business, but to be a loyal customer. Because if you just say what you do, they'll buy what you do. But if someone else with better tech or better price comes, doei, as we say in the Netherlands here.
Amazing Dutch.
Thank you. Dank je wel. So our goal is not to have a repeat customer, but have a loyal customer where if there's, God forbid, a scandal or if there is something going on with the company, we want the customer to want to buy from us, right? And this is happening by using this, talking from the inside out. But I kind of lied to you, Christophe, because these are not circles. These are actually a code. If we look at the image, we have the founder on top, which represents the why, is the embodiment of the mission. We have the top management, which represents the how we do stuff, how are we different, and they know how to do stuff and bring the vision to life. And finally, what? It's the employees who work on the what itself. So the idea of this framework is to get you up here as a founder to communicate your why clearly to the management, who will learn how to communicate it clearly to the employees who will then be able, there's a continuation here, but I ran out of paper, which is the market. So the goal is literally to use your purpose to build a megaphone. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
Perfect. With this framework in mind, I want us to think about your mission, your why. And I will ask you this question. Your company started, but did it start from a mission or did it start from a gap in the market? Which one would you think is more obvious for you?
Honestly, I think that's quite a difficult question in the sense that for me, it's a bit related with each other as well. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. So I saw these big corporates like really being efficient and improving and growing based on that financial efficiency. But then we saw that with startups that are actually the innovators of tomorrow, because these big corporates are not necessarily the innovators of tomorrow, startups are, they are lacking that financial efficiency or access to financial tools and tools to optimize and manage your financials to be efficient and then actually grow as well as they could with financial efficiency. So there was a market drive over there, but at the same time, yeah, that created also the vision, because that really created our vision like, hey, or our mission, I would say, like, we are here to make startups financially efficient, helping them optimizing and managing their spendings. And that's the core or the driver of everything that we do till now.
Would you say that this why of yours was something you've had constantly over time? And I'm talking about even before Husk, even before the rebrand, even before Lipify. Was this something which you always believed in? Or was it something which you just saw, okay, I believe in this?
No, I always believed in it. And yeah, this might sound as a repetition, but like that why was you can literally ask the question why. Like, okay, why do these big corporates fit into the financial frameworks and then have all these advantages? And why do smaller companies and don't fit in? And okay, we focus on startups right now. Now you can make it broader, but we also believe you need to focus on a specific target and we want to create value, right? And we also believe that by creating value, you should focus because doing a bit for everyone doesn't really create a lot of value. Now, with our focus on startups, because we believe that's where we can create the most value and be the most helpful. That's why, that's why we chose and focus on startups. But so that why was inherent for already a long, long time. Seeing the discrepancy between how large corporates act versus smaller companies.
Right. I know. You said that you could just ask the question why. The thing is, that's a very hard question to answer. And I will give you an example. Ask me, why did I buy this MacBook, for an example? I'm an Apple fanboy, by the way. The viewers of this
Yeah.
podcast already know, because I always give this example. I'm biased in that sense. I would probably not now, but if you asked me in a while back, maybe
Yeah.
7 years ago when I first started the whole thing, I would answer, oh, I like the design. Oh, I like the way the UI looks. Oh, it's very light. I can just lift it up like this, no problem. And I can carry it around and looks very good. But the thing is, that's a rationalization of my why, because in psychology, we have two brains, the new brain and the old brain, right? The new brain is the one which knows how to speak and knows how to rationalize and to have complex thought. The old brain, which is also called the reptilian brain, is the brain which feels as instinctual and emotional. But it lacks that language centrum because we evolved language some 10,000 years ago. The brain was way older than that. So then, when we feel something, we tend to rationalize it with the rational side. So the goal is to train the brain to understand the feeling and to be able to process it with words. So now, if you ask me, it's because I believe in the why of Apple. It's because I believe that I think in a way differently. And you can see that with the way I approach branding. It's not just make it look good, it's about providing meaning. So I align myself even tangentially with that. So it's essential, actually, that when we ask the question, we look at the deeper levels behind that. And this is where conversations with people who already know how to unpack this framework and how to get people to talk is important. So I'm glad that you can answer that question, why? But it's actually quite paradoxical because a lot of people don't know. I myself included couldn't have answered that 7 years ago. I had to die to answer that question.
Well,
But
comes from the heart.
with the heart stopping.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Okay, well, we talked about your why a little bit, right? How do you think this why is showing up in what you do, in the product, maybe, in the team, or the way you just talk about the brand to begin with? How do you think it shows up?
The how it shows up. Well, it starts with the product because looking at our market, startups, and just saying they don't fit in, that's a traditional approach. So then you have all these ways of saying it, like startups are inherently too risky or any other excuse. So you have to start analyzing it from a different perspective. I also believe like doing that drives innovation, being able to look at it differently. And that's what we did. So we provide credit cards with credit built in. That means that there's a risk component and a risk assessment needed. And that's where we started. Like, what if you approach this differently? And there we got help from the fact or the current environment that we are living in. And this might sound a little bit technical, but there's something like European regulation called PSD2 that requires banks to open up the infrastructure for other
Yeah,
players
I'm
like
aware
us.
with that.
Yeah. And that allowed us to actually bring our vision to life because we said, look, let's start looking differently at it than what traditional banks do and use open banking for our risk assessment because you always need to do a risk assessment in what we do. But we have real time monitoring, real time insights into the banking data of our customers, combined with, of course, additional data to enrich it. The switch from like a snapshot in time with traditional frameworks to like, hey, let's go to a model where it's like more about monitoring and real time, and you can start forecasting on that as well. I'm not going to go too much in depth on how the risk model works. Making that switch allows us to serve a market that is in need of the product that we offer of financial efficiency, but that was underserved on it because it just didn't fit in the traditional frameworks. And so rethinking that whole process is very important. We did that in our product. Of course, it's the team that does it, the team that thinks it through. And being able to rethink stuff is actually how we do it. And it translates in the product. It translates, that's, I think, the other point you were touching on is also in the branding. And there, I think the brand also, or the brand that we want to create also needs to be distant enough from the traditional brands because we want to reflect that we are different. We want to reflect that we look differently at things in a way that are more helpful to our target market again. And that's the same what we do with the brand. So we wanted to create a bold brand with like more bold colors. In fintech, everything is blue. We moved away from that blue to differentiate ourselves and to differentiate ourselves from like these traditional incumbents, but also to make sure that startups feel more affiliated with us as
Right,
well.
I noticed that. I noticed that, and that was a very big improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, so to end up the chapter of purpose, because we also have some other interesting chapters to talk about, would you be okay if we were to build your own golden circle right now with what I got from you? And you can tell me if what I'm about to say is gonna strike a chord. And if it
Yes.
does, it means I got it right.
Well, let's do it.
Okay, perfect. Your why. Let me see how I can word this in a nice way. I have the bad habit of not taking notes when I'm on the podcast, so I have to do this off the top of my head. We're going to have it a little bit more chiseled on this side here when you get the gift. But if I were to give your why, you believe that startups are the engines of innovation when it comes to the economy. And they are limited by, well, basically either lack of resources or just how to handle stuff. And you believe that supporting them and freeing their functions inside their companies will help push innovation up to the market. And you exist to help startups compete toe to toe with the big companies. How you do that? First and foremost, to your ability to think differently and to your first-hand experience as a lawyer busy with financials, and also to your first-hand experience of what a startup might need because you're a startup yourself. And finally, what do? You create this platform which frees up the financial function of the startups and completely outsource it so that they can focus on what truly brings innovation. Did I get that right?
Yeah. One thing that I would add to the last part is startups need financial discipline, but they don't have the financial teams to do so. And that's what a platform does from the early beginnings to a bit of a cliche, but to your IPO because it grows with you. That's what,
Yeah, that's what I
that's
meant
the
when they
what.
don't have the capabilities to do that because so then they outsource it to you and you make it happen. But I'm glad that that was that strike. Did it strike at least a chord somewhere, or was I
Oh,
complete? Okay, I'm glad then. Okay, let's move on to regulation because you talk PSD2. PSD3 is coming up right now, so we need to be very wary of what we do and how we handle our operations, especially in the fintech industry. So I wanted to know because fintech is always famous for the regulation and the red tape, everything you want. How do you stay true to this vision when there's so much regulation involved?
Yeah, with regulation, what you have to be careful of with regulation is it can push everyone into the same direction. And indeed, that multiple companies, just by following the regulation or like having to follow the regulation, they all become the same, more of the same. And it's hard to get out of that. That's a regulation. Now, yeah, we are in a regulated market, and that makes things certainly difficult, but it also brings advantages, I would say. For example, without regulation, we would not be able to exist. And that's again the PSD2
Yeah,
opening up the infrastructure. So we can serve our customers because of regulation. I think that's a great thing. At the same time, on the flip side, is we are regulated, which is again good because that pushes cowboys out, and we are still in a sensitive industry because we are moving money, handling money, and that's the
obviously.
lifeline of every company in the end. That's the money because no money going bankrupt means that there's no money anymore. So that's a lifeline. So we handle that, and that should be done carefully. And I think without regulation, of course, then it's a bit of a cliche answer, but then you get cowboys, and that's not really good for the industry either. On the flip side, regulation can also be a protective for these traditional incumbents again, blocking fintechs from moving fast. And you see that sometimes in other industries where it's not regulated, you see that technology is moving faster than in the fintech industry because of the regulatory aspects that we have to comply with. So it's really double. We can exist because of regulation. At the same time, it can block us from going faster. My background helps, to be honest,
Definitely.
being a lawyer. So yeah, we need to be aware that we don't stop innovation with regulation.
Exactly. I would like to quote, if that's okay, one of our previous guests, Stefan Krumberg. He said that in his, and let me see if I remember how he put it. He said in his brand guidelines, there is things what he can do, and there is tiers of how extreme he can get.
Yeah,
There's like the red tier, which is don't say this. There is the orange tier, which is like, okay. And there's green tier, you can say whatever you want from here. And he also had mentioned something very interesting. In his brand guidelines, there's like personas of like things he can impersonate or his colleagues can impersonate when they make communication. I found that quite interesting and how he related those personas to these tiers. Like this persona is here, so it should be used sparingly. This persona is here. I said, wow, that's actually interesting. So when you look at it, because he's also going on this line of being bold, and like the way he put it, he was um the bad guy in school, like the naughty boy in school. That's how he put it. By the way, for those of you watching at home, I'm going to link his episode in the description box or in the information box wherever you're watching this from. And Christophe, you also should watch it after
I
we're
will
done here.
definitely. I will definitely.
Of course. Okay, let's move to investors right now
Yeah.
because you raised money. It's not often we
Yes.
have a guest who just came out of the raising money. So you, as someone who had their pitch, basically. Do you think investors can tell when a fintech stands for something?
Yes, I think they can. I mean, we raised a pre-seed round and we are still very early stage. So it's not that we raised it based on current numbers and current revenue and how we are serving thousands of customers today. No, that is based on the vision and the mission that we explained to them and that we could convince them of like, hey, this is a great mission, and they were willing to step on the boat and go for the ride with us. So yeah, I think you can convince investors, and sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's actually not that hard to convince them to join you and try to get to your purpose and help you create it.
Right. And that's exactly the megaphone we were talking about, if you remember when I had
Yeah.
the graphics in front of me. I'll tell you a story. It's part of my friend's experience. He's a venture capitalist and he had this fintech. What they did was they had these plastic cards like Revolut, but you could pay with crypto. So there was a wallet
Yeah.
which you could pay with crypto at the Albertine, for an example, like we have, so
Yeah.
you could just go there. And he came to the pitch was good. They checked. They had the pro forma statements for 5 years, and they looked sensible. He had the mission written on the slides. Even he had the unique selling points, and the assumptions were very good also. Everything you could say it was almost pitch perfect.
Yeah.
if I may use this metaphor. But then he withdrew. Do you know why he withdrew?
The
Because
crypto
he,
aspect?
yeah, no, had nothing with the
Okay.
crypto. He saw that the mission which he presented, I don't remember the mission right now, nor how much he asked for. He didn't believe in it. He was just saying it for the sake of it. He was just in the business for the sake of, probably making money. People don't understand his money is a consequence of doing a business. What you do is to actually serve a higher purpose. So I agree. Investors do know when you stand or don't stand for something because if they can tell when you're just there for whatever reason, just, to be there. So yeah, 100% agree with you there. Okay, let's move a little bit back in time when you first started with this company where resources were low. How did your purpose help you stay focused?
Honestly, I think also you refine your purpose over time. So I think from the beginning you have a bit of an idea of it, and it might still be messy, but then over time you refine it, and that refinement is part of the focus, actually, in my opinion. So constantly looking at like how can we do it better and better within that purpose, making the purpose or the mission statement sharper and sharper and making it resonate more and more with our target audience is crucial here. And I think that's part of building a startup. And the way to do that is like talking is a big part of it. So yeah, building a startup is all about building and product development, but also talking. And that's talking with customers, that's talking with people in the space, and that's refinement. That's for me key to stay focused on the purpose. But it
So
starts
the
as a
lean,
messy thing and it
yeah.
goes to like
So the lean startup methodology, almost.
exactly. And I'm not saying that we're already there. I mean, as you know, we are still pre-seed, so we are still refining that. But
Exactly.
yes.
I do believe the lean method doesn't actually end. It's a continuous process. It's a
Oh
constant
yeah.
re-improvement. But I agree with you there. Okay, this is my favorite question, and then we'll do two more. Is that okay with you?
That's fine. Sure.
Okay, perfect. So this is my favorite question out of the deck. Imagine that this AirPods case is a magic wand, and if I wave it like this at your business, whatever you would want to change would change. What would you change and why?
It's also a very hard question.
That's why it's my favorite.
What would I change and why? I think for a long time we didn't spend enough time to reflect on like awareness about ourselves. And that's something we are still learning, to be honest. Um, so, because you can have the best mission and the best purpose and the best goal and the most noble company, but if no one knows you, you have an issue. And then you're actually not creating value and you're not serving and you're not improving the world, so to speak. So, whereas, okay, in the beginning, you have to prove that you can build a company and the product and all that. But what I would change is I would go even more all in on showing that you're there. And that's again, I think that's linked to branding, that's linked to marketing, but you need to be that household name, which sounds old fashioned, which we don't want to be, but that somehow that household name for your target audience that they say like financial efficiency, that's Husk. And that is something, if I can bring that in from today to tomorrow, that's what I would love to have. And we are working on that super hard. And the rebranding is this is one of the reasons of the rebranding because we felt like we are not there yet and we are not, or the brand that we have, Lipify back then, is not reflecting what we want to be. Husk does because Husk has a very strong connotation. Husk also, maybe I would like to talk about it, but Husk is actually, if you know what a husk is, it's like the shell of a seed, the protection shell.
Yeah,
And so we are that. We are your protection shell. And if you grow, hence
I
seed,
understand.
we as your shell, we continue protecting you. So that is what we want to reflect. That's what we want to be. So to answer your question in short, with your magic wand, we want to be well known everywhere because that's also very key to be able to bring the value that you can bring.
Well, you're a purpose-driven startup and you're going to make it there. It's just a matter of right guidance and right people to have on your side. Okay, I don't think it worked because actually it's just an AirPods case, but I will try it again in the evening. Okay, let's talk about trust because we just talk about this. This is one of the two final questions I want to ask you. Getting customers to trust a fintech product is not an easy thing. I know
No.
because I struggle with my clients also at Beholst. How do we get them and how do we build so we build systems of branding and to make it look as good as possible and make
Yeah.
it shine and also to inspire them. Of course, it's a blurry field thing. How do you think, or let me ask you this, do you think that your mission, your why, your purpose lowers that trust barrier?
Lowers? No. I mean, I think our mission really helps with the trust because startups understand that and it's a noble mission. It's like we really want to help you and help you grow and help you succeed. So
I
it's
meant if it lowers the trust barrier, meaning that people easily
ah
trust
yeah,
you.
yeah. So the opposite. Yes. So it helps to create trust. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, so the purpose helps to create trust because it's a noble purpose. It's a good one. It's to help, to solve issues, to solve problems and pain points. But there's more needed than your purpose, I think, to create trust within the fintech industry. The purpose and convincing potential customers and customers of what you're doing, I honestly don't think that's the issue for trust. The issue is the sensitivity of what you're dealing with, and that's money. And not, especially in Europe, people are extremely sensitive about money. People don't talk about their own salaries, not even to colleagues or to their own families. So that shows how sensitive people are to money in general. And so I think that's where building trust is super, super important and also super difficult. And there, like in full transparency, we are a young startup. And so that means that not everyone trusts us from day one. And that's something that we need to work on. And that's something also that we are learning a lot. And as a very simple example, so I talked about the fact that for us, you need to connect your bank accounts with us, and that's the way we can operate. Now, connecting bank accounts with us, people don't trust that, some people. And so they are like, okay, but what can you do with my bank account? And are you going to take all my money from my bank account? And then you can see everything. So people think that I, Christophe, at night and then checking like what they did in their bank account and then wire a bit to myself. But I can guarantee you that's not true.
You don't do that. Wow.
No, I don't do. But that's a trust issue, right?
It is a trust breaker. Yeah, it's a trust killer.
Yeah. And that's something that we'll work on really, really hard to improve that.
I understand completely. Let me tell you a secret which will help you actually
Yeah.
shift that mindset. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I can prove it to you with money right now. If I tell you, Christoph, give me 50 euros, needed to buy shoes, would you give it to me? We just met.
No.
Exactly. But if I tell you, Christoph, I'm on a mission to give poor people in the orphanage shoes because they lack it. I just need 50 euros to buy some shoes. Would you give it to me then?
Well, that changes the perspective. Yes.
Exactly. So people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Yeah.
This is also in fintech. So while I agree fintech is a very hard niche to penetrate, and you can even take this example. You hopped on my podcast because you believed my why.
That's right.
And I'm also working in the fintech vertical tangent to it.
Yeah.
So this should change your perspective. People don't buy only why you do stuff. And if you're very conversant in your why and you know how to communicate it properly, and let me show you for comparison, you build this megaphone properly, then you're literally unstoppable.
That's a great insight tip. Thanks.
Yes, don't worry about that. That's why I'm here. That's my mission, to help you.
Amazing.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you about legacy, but you already answered that in the previous question. You want to be remembered as if someone needs help with this. When we're talking about startups and their financial function, you want them to think about financial clarity equals Husk.
Yes.
So that is your legacy you want to leave, unless you want to change that, of course.
No, I don't. That is a legacy I
Okay.
want to leave.
I will ask you a final question. If you think more fintechs acted with purpose, not just ambition of, I'm going to revolutionize the fintech industry or the fintech vertical, what do you think would change?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yes, definitely. So, the final question. If more fintechs actually acted with purpose, not just with ambition, what do you think would change?
It's a very difficult question.
It's the final question.
Maybe even the hardest one, because I think if you don't have ambition, you don't make it at all.
That's a very good insight.
But then if you only act on ambition and never on purpose, so I think the winners in the long term are the ones with purpose. With the ambition, you can have a short term run, but it won't be long term. So I do think if all startups, let's say all fintechs, would act on purpose and not purely on ambition, which I believe you need, by the way, but
You need.
not purely on ambition, you will cut out a lot of noise. And that might be good for the ecosystem, might be good for the trust in the ecosystem, but that also in the end will be beneficial, of course, for your customers. I think, and that's a general purpose that I think that is for every company in the world. It's like you want to bring added value to your customer, no matter who your customer is. If you are like targeting marketeers, then it's that. If you're targeting startups like we do, then that's your customer. But for your particular customer, I think you want to bring value. And so if you don't consider purpose and only ambition, that value creation might deteriorate. And so that's what I think. You will cut out the noise.
Wonderfully put. I believe every single word you said. And with that, I want to announce you that I lied to you. There is
Okay.
another question and the final curveball. So we do this on this podcast. We like to put the spotlight on our guests. But we talked about your purpose, Christoph. We talked about
Yes.
how you wanted to help startups to become and get the resources they need to manage the finances and get financial clarity, and thus we can bring innovation because they represent the pinnacle of innovation, startups. That is
Yes.
your why in a way. Let's see, how is that reflected in your brand? Would you be down to show your website on the podcast to see if that's reflected?
Sure, let's do.
Okay. All right. So let me share my screen. Let me know if you see this, Christoph. Let me know if you recognize this landing page.
I do.
Perfect. Do you also see when I'm highlighting stuff? Because I'll do this often.
Yes, I can see that.
Perfect. Okay. So Husk. We raised 1 million pre-seed. Read more here. Okay. Um, what I would do instead of having this here, because it's a little distracting and it's following me all around, I would have it as a pop-up maybe, which I can immediately close. But that's just user experiences. We're not here for that. I didn't even see this X button here. Oh, I like the animation. It's nice. Okay. The font is nice. The font is nice, yes. Okay, the font is okay. I like that it's bold, but something tells me I've seen this before somewhere, but I don't know exactly where. Manage your spending with made simple and powerful. Okay, start with made simple and powerful. I would make this more obvious and in tune with your wife, for an example. Something like empowered finances to free up innovation or something like that. There's just something that came up to me. I would see, you have to see your brand voice and to make something like that. But that's something I would mention innovation here. I would mention why you exist, because when a startup, or most startups, want to believe they are the pinnacle of innovation. So when you tell them we're taking up over finances so you can free up innovation, you get them interested already. They're already hooked on your why. And then I would do what and how in small fonts here. Get started for free. That's a very good thing. And I love that you put this. The purple and the colors I like, by the way. Everything is good. It's
Thank you.
not often that you see this. Transaction insights, corporate cards. Okay, instant financial clarity. This is what did I do? I clicked on something accidentally. This is
Yes.
good. We're going to talk about the order we're going to put these in. What founders gain with Husk. I like that you go, but I would like to have some consistency in the photos. For example, if you're using headshots, this guy here who's zoomed in from Thrive, while I do like he is out of the ordinary because everybody does headshots. So this would go actually more with your brand. I would like everybody to have an out of the ordinary picture, not just one. Does that make sense?
It does. It's a good tip.
Yes, so that's one thing. Simple pricing, serious impact. I like that you have the this is good and book a call because this gets them hooked. I like that. Very good. Husk is supported by. Very good. Well, in fintech, trust is important. So I'd move this actually. You actually have it here, but there's no, I actually skipped it. So you may want to give it some context.
Yeah.
Get started with Husk. I like this call to action. It's pink and everything, and it works well. The colors are very well. So what I would like to do is you have your why, but I would make it more clearly. I would move into how, maybe make it more people or friendly, have a picture of you and say how you're different. Basically, if you remember the way we were talking about the how exactly this here, the middle circle, I would put in the middle and then get to what I do and explain.
Yeah.
Features, this is good. About us. I have to actually go searching for your about. So I would actually put about features, not features about.
Okay.
That's what I would do personally. I I love these two things. Again, some consistency in the photos. If you're going to use 3 headshots and we have a selfie, that doesn't look too good. Our values, this is good. I would also, instead of I would have our story immediately after the people and then our values, because you see your story is already down here, and I would have already went to some other page. I would have seen your story, and what people buy is people. They buy stories. You bought my story. That's why you're on this podcast. No hard feelings. So this is what people do. So I would do some organizing. This is not major changes. You already have a good website and the colors are good. I have to take a bit better look at the copy text and to understand the brand voice, but I don't think I have enough time in this podcast to do that. But should you want that, we can discuss afterwards.
Sounds good.
Okay, this our house drive to houses from the gaps we've witnessed. This is something I already see here. You start with a gap. It's not bad, but I would also make it about that purpose you told me about.
Yeah.
That's what gets people hooked, 100%. This is good. You're talking about yeah, this is just the regulation part.
Yeah,
Very good.
legally
And
required.
pricing. Yeah. I didn't see. I had to like get close up. Okay, pricing. This is very important that you get right. I would again, this is some user experience thing. This needs to be more evident because I'm not going to scroll down, and then you may get some issues, maybe customers asking because they don't get so far down. I would
Yeah.
have a comparison already here, for an example. No one's gonna
Okay.
be here. This is also almost a little bit redundant because I would not get to this if I were your customer. I would only see this. I'll be interested what you get, and then get started for free.
Yeah.
This is a good thing because it gives trust. Let's see how this get started with free looks like. I'm happy that you don't have a photo here. Get started with Husk. Or actually, I would put a photo. I'm not sure. Okay, well, this is okay. Sign in. Why don't we mirror this? Like, why don't we make this also this, but on the other side? Because it shows brand conviction and brand equity that you reiterate how you look like so people become familiar with you.
Okay,
You
that's
know
a
what I'm
good
talking
insight.
about? Okay. Yeah, this is what I have for you right now. Let me see. Is this something I missed? Oh, you have a blog. Why isn't your blog here? People, it's under a, no. I missed it completely. I wouldn't be reading your blog. So make it more evident somewhere if you have a
Yeah.
blog. That's one thing. I love your illustrations. Love them. I love you went for the flat stuff and the bold. This goes exactly with what you wanted. Let's see. This is nice. Okay, this is good. This is good. It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, this is all I can look at right now. I know you have individual pages for features. This looks good. Okay, I'll just look at this. I like that there's not a lot of text here and that this is just the what. So it's irrelevant. I don't have to look at it, but it looks good. Let's see the careers because it's also the way people, the way companies are is you look at the employees. If the employees are good, then the customers are good. And if the customers are good, then you guys, the founders, are good. That's the order you should be looking at. So that's important. Okay. If I would just like put this up here instead of having this because you know, save
It's a bit
time.
of double
But yeah,
up.
yeah, it's a double up. What I call redundancy. But yeah, that is my introspection of your website. Are you ready for my verdict?
Yes.
Okay, so you do some stuff. The colors are in line, so that's a very good thing. You're not like everyone else that isn't fintech, so that's a good thing. That raises your grade up. You talk about your why, but not in the exact order, and you don't put a lot of emphasis on why you do. So I would give you a 6, probably. You're almost at the passing grade of 7, which I put as a staple. With a little bit more guidance and a little bit of more working on to getting that megaphone right, I really think you have a powerful mission that will serve you for years to come.
Thank you. And I'm actually very pleased with this grade because, of course, we are not there yet. The trajectory is still long, and this grade reflects that, but it also shows that we are on the right path.
It shows that you took some right steps. I don't know what the brand was for Lipify, but
Would have been a 3, I think.
it depends. I'll have to see it. But yes, so thank you guys for tuning in this episode of Intentionally FinTech. I've been your host, Michael Phillips. This was Christophe, the wonderful co-founder of Husk. And make sure you check out his page, his services, his socials, and everything are going to be around somewhere. This episode in the description or in the info box, depending where you're listening or watching this from. If you want to check the other episodes, please feel free. We have wonderful founders, wonderful stories, and wonderful salary tests. So make sure you check that. Otherwise, I'll see you to the next one. Christophe, do you have a final thought for the audience?
Well, if you want to start a startup as an audience, or you're a startup founder, first of all, we can help you financially, but go for it and make sure, because I really agree with Michael here, that it's a purpose-driven startup. Ambitions are key, but make sure that on top of your ambitions, you have purpose.
Wonderfully put. I couldn't have put it better myself, Christophe. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.